Hello, thank you so much for joining us today for the Swipe Smart session focused on credit card reconciliation and program management. My name is Alexis Whalen, and I'm a Senior Content Manager here at SAP Concur. We are so excited to have you joining us virtually, and I'm accompanied by a fantastic panel today. Amy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. Hello, my name is Amy Schuerg. I oversee all things travel and expense for Culligan International. And before joining Culligan, I was with SAP Concur for 4 years as an implementation project manager. And it was a great learning experience to have learned not only the configuration, but the admin side of the software.
Yes, and Amy has quite a fan base. Some of you joining might recognize her. We are looking to build up Bob's fan base. This is his first time joining us on a panel. Bob, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Alexis. Bob Cohen, I'm with Mastercard, and I'm Director of Global Partnerships. And my team works on embedding finance capabilities into global platforms to enable payments and other type of financing offerings. So very excited to be here and looking forward to the panel.
Fantastic. Well, these two have a wealth of knowledge to share with you. And with that, let's go ahead and kick off today's session. So our goal for this session is for you to leave with a win in your back pocket, something you can take to your organization and champion immediately, whether that be based on cost savings, a decrease in manual effort, or enhanced compliance. So we'll do that by exploring credit card reconciliation with Amy, deep diving into her experience, her history with running and managing various card programs. And then from there, we'll pivot and we'll talk with Bob about how Mastercard has some different benefits and solutions to offer SAP Concur users. And we'll do a wrap up today with some resources, some takeaways, and everyone's favorite part of these sessions, some scandals that we'll share with you all. All right, so first things first, we are going to be using a lot of acronyms today. So we do have those shown on screen for you. You'll see the different card program types on the left. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see a mashup of various letters. Those are the acronyms that you'll hear us use over and over again. We have IBIP, which is individually billed and individually paid. We have IBCP, individually billed, company paid, and CBCP, company billed, company paid. So for some of you, this may be common knowledge. For others, this may be entirely new. Either way, that is okay. Feel free to pause, to take notes, take a screenshot of this if you'd like, whatever you need and able to make the most of today's session. All right, Amy, are you ready for your first question? Okay, let's do this. All right, Amy, so what is your experience in managing card programs and payment types, and which do you currently have implemented today?
I've managed all of them, CBCP, IBCP, and IBIP, and honestly, I don't have a favorite. It's kind of like choosing your own favorite headache. They all come with benefits, but let's be real, they bring their own special kind of pain. It's like corporate card soap opera, full of drama, suspense, and the occasional plot twist involving missing receipts. Here at Culligan, we're currently using IBCP company T&E Amex cards, and we just went live with purchasing cards in SAP Concur.
Ooh, purchasing cards, that's exciting.
Oh, very much so.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, Amy. I like the reference to it's a soap opera or a drama. That's funny, especially like with reading being so big right now. That's a funny reference.
Oh, yes.
That's good. That's good. All right, Amy. So how do you ensure that credit card expenses are properly categorized and they align with Culligan's company policies?
I find that using SAP's ability to add descriptions and hyperlinks directly to an expense type is such a smart move. Also, it empowers the users right at the point of entry by reducing guesswork and errors before submission. Plus, those quick tips can act as mini training moments embedded in the workflow. I also found that the use of audit rules tied to specific expense types adds an extra layer of automatic validation, which helps catch inconsistencies and policy violations early. And with Manager's Review and Concur Audit Services, submission checks creates a nice safety net to catch anything that slips through, especially when the expense type and receipts don't match.
Okay, so on the front end, you're using those descriptions, right? So end users can better identify the expenses that match?
Yes, I do.
Fantastic. And then on the back end, you're using those audit rules to kind of help lift for you?
Just to make sure that nothing slips through.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, thank you. Next question. How do you handle personal charges? This is a hot topic.
It is the bane of my existence. Marking the transaction personal right away is critical. That clear flag that separates from being a reimbursable business expense and keeps the company's accounting clean. Having employees pay the issuer bank directly for these charges ensures that the company doesn't absorb any personal costs, which is essential. I find I really like the always audit flag for repeat offenders. This is a smart way to spotlight habitual misuse and escalate oversight without overburdening the whole audit team.
That's fair. So that's like an education piece, right? You're able to catch those folks, use these opportunities to provide additional education for them, and hopefully they stop making the same mistake.
Exactly.
Okay, fantastic. Something else that we talked about in one of our many rehearsals for this session was the fact that we suggest utilizing Always Audit for new users, whether that be for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, just keeping in mind that they're learning how to utilize the card, right, with your policy in mind.
Oh, of course, yes, that is so important. I mean, by even not even the repeat offenders, just with the new people, as they're learning the systems, as they're learning Concur, as they're getting familiar with everything, that Always Audit is going to help bring more clarity.
Yeah, love it. I love Always Audit.
I do too.
I'm not even the bad guy. All right, so Amy, have you implemented any strategies to reduce the frequency of personal charges that you see appearing on expense reports?
Yeah, I have a 3-strike policy for managing personal expenses and corporate cards. Employees have 15 days to repay the personal charges. If a payment is not made within the time frame, a reminder is sent out. After the third reminder, the manager and the HR are notified and CC'd on the email, and then the employee's American Express card is unfortunately then suspended until the outstanding balance is paid. This approach is particularly effective in addressing late fees, which are a common issue with IBCP expense cards.
Do you see that once this happens once for a user and they receive the email, they have to pay that late fee, that there's a reduction in the frequency in it happening again?
I wish I could say yes, but no.
I was really optimistic there.
I was too.
Okay, so with that in mind, how do you handle expense reports being outstanding or not submitted on time?
We've set up automated reminders at 30, 45, 60, and 75 days, and after 90 days, if an expense is not submitted, the corporate card is suspended until everything is turned in.
You'd think they'd want to submit it.
You'd think, but I don't understand why. I actually tell people, I said, my job is to make your life easier when it comes to expenses, so you utilize me. I'm here for your help.
Yeah, you're the good guy. You're trying to help.
I am,
You're
exactly.
trying.
I'm not the bad guy.
Yes. Okay, so with that in mind, have you found any challenges when it comes to enforcing Culligan's policy compliance with credit card usage?
Absolutely. Challenges in enforcing credit card policies include employee misunderstandings, late reports, personal charges on Amex, inconsistent manager enforcement, and handling repeat offenders fairly.
Interesting. Fairly. I
Fairly.
feel like that term is, you know.
It is. But you want to make sure, I mean, that everybody is always so busy, you have to understand, give them guidance and just some grace a little.
Yeah. I was thinking grace was the word you were going to be saying, but I didn't know if the corporate world really had that in mind.
Right.
Okay, so how do you handle discrepancies between credit card statements and expense reports, especially for card programs like you're using, which is the IBCP, and those that are on CBCP?
Well, discrepancies can arise for various reasons, and the right response depends on the underlying issue, such as if an employee uses a corporate card for non-reimbursable personal expense, for example, a personal item charge on a hotel folio. The employee must then make a reimbursement to the company to cover that to American Express to cover the charge, as well as unpaid late fees. This is incurred on the card because it is responsible of the employee to make sure they, 1, don't have it, and 2, to make sure they pay it on time.
That seems fair.
It does.
All right, switching gears ever so slightly, what about receipt discrepancies? So what about when the receipt doesn't match the expense that you're seeing come into the system?
Well, discrepancies and missing receipts happen quite often. When audit identifies discrepancies or missing documentation, the employee is promptly notified to correct the error and typically resolve it by either uploading the correct receipt or submitting a missing receipt affidavit when the original receipt is not available. This helps maintain compliance while giving an employee the fair chance to rectify honest mistakes before any further action is taken.
Do you have a number of missing receipt affidavits that they're allowed to submit?
I have a soft idea of who are my repeat offenders, and it's more of just a learning experience. I'll message and say, you've got the mobile app, there really is no reason to not have your receipt.
Yeah, that makes sense. And they're able to even store the receipts after they take the photo, so it's not like it could go missing.
Exactly.
Interesting. Now, you said you had an employee that was submitting what instead of a receipt?
They were submitting a photo of Liz Lemon from, what was it, Parks and Rec, with it's just her on the couch and it said, working on my night cheese. And that was his receipt all the time.
Points for creativity.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Made me giggle, but it always got sent back.
Okay, so I know we've discussed the fact that you utilize the Cognos reporting platform. So for those of you watching, Cognos is the term that we utilize to refer to the analysis and intelligence reporting platforms on the back end. You're utilizing intelligence, correct?
I am, yes.
Okay, fantastic. So can you tell us about any custom reports that you've built out in order to help when it comes to credit card reconciliation?
Of course, yeah. I have a custom report called Kitchen Sink because it throws everything but the kitchen sink itself into this report. It gives me all the data I could want mashed up in a one mega report. At the end of each month, I run the report to track employee expense activities. Since all expenses are due on the 12th of the month, the report helps monitor compliance and catch any outstanding or late submissions. The report includes unsubmitted expense reports to identify who still needs to submit, submitted expense reports to track completed submissions and any returned expense reports, detailed transaction information including vendor, amount, and date, and employee details to associate the expense with the right individual. This report provides a comprehensive snapshot of the company's expense activity, enabling timely follow-ups and ensuring expense policies are being followed.
I love it. Isn't there a Sunday at, what's it called?
There is. It's a Kitchen Sink Sunday at Colonial
Yes,
Cafe.
okay, so this is your treat.
This is my treat. This is my report. It's one and done.
I love that, with a cherry on top. Okay, so that is a custom report that you're utilizing, but there are some standard reports also available to those of you on analysis or intelligence. There are custom reports and standard reports for analytics as well, but for this session, we're going to focus on analysis and intelligence. Some that you might consider would be all expenses by employee and personal expenses. That's a great one to utilize to determine who might need some additional training, because some of those folks do exist.
Oh yeah, we do.
All right, Amy, we are going to give you a break. Take a drink of water, take 5 minutes, walk a lap, whatever you want to do. Bob, are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay, sounds good. So, Bob, let's talk about the mental and emotional side of why you think cardholders do not want to submit timely expense reports.
And it's not just card holders.
No.
Nobody likes doing expense reports. Nobody wants to go travel and try to remember, what did I charge? What did I pay for? Who was with me? When was this? What's allowed? So nobody looks forward to doing expense reports. So that's the biggest challenge that we have here. People delay, most people put off things that they don't like doing, right?
Exactly.
And expense reports is no exception to that.
Laundry too.
So laundry. So that's the problem with expense reports. It's not something people go, gee, I got to do expense reports, wake up in the morning and go, I really want to do this. You do expense reports because you have to.
You have to.
Right? There's
Right.
policies. If you're using your own card, you want to get reimbursed for that. If you're using a company card, you don't want to get in trouble. You don't want Amy to be walking down the hall coming after you saying, hey, I'm your best friend. You need to file these or else, you're going to be in trouble.
I imagine Amy with giant scissors, just ready to cut the card up.
Sometimes. But I am the nicest person you'll ever meet, though.
I was thinking more like walk quietly and carry a big stick
Yes.
down the hallway.
Okay, so that makes sense. So it's not necessarily that they are against it. It's just that it's not a priority. It's not top of mind. It's not what they want to do.
Exactly.
Except these people on the line. These are admins, so they're doing it timely, if not early, right?
Yep.
We can safely assume.
If you're a salesperson and you're traveling, you're there to sell. You're there to get more business for the company.
Correct.
Having to do an expense report is a
priority.
necessary evil.
That makes sense. Okay, all right. So with that in mind, why can't organizations just force employees to submit?
Theoretically, you could force employees to do this, but ensuring compliance is difficult to enforce.
Okay.
There. So, I mean, you are forced to
Yeah.
file an expense report when you think about it, right? You charge something, you have an expense, you need to file it. So you are forced to do this. But what if there's a better way? We don't need to force people to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's where Mastercard comes into play, right? That's a little bit about the partnership. Can you dive into that for us?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So we've worked with SAP Concur to reimagine the expense report, and we're actually working with them to automatically create an expense report. So taking that onus, that burden from that traveler, from that person that is filing the expense report, and really building it for them automatically. So when you start to plan a trip, you say, I want to fly here or I want to travel here. Concur automatically AI generates a expense report, and then as you incur expenses on that trip, they automatically upload expenses to that expense sheet. So any charges that you have are automatically uploaded to that. And we're using something called real-time authorization. So we go out to dinner, the three of us, and I put my card down to pay for dinner. Right then and there, I'm prompted with prompted with the request saying, do you want to make a copy of the receipt, take a photo of it? Yes, I can click a photo, and that's automatically uploaded into that expense report. I don't need to do that when I get back to the office or, sitting on my mobile app. It's automatically done for me. It can also prompt me for, who did you go to dinner with? Who are the participants? Were they in-house? Were they company? Or were they out of company? So you can file it right then and there. So when you get back to the office, all your expenses are already uploaded into your expense report. All the charges are there. And so, boom, there's really nothing left to do except click submit, and that expense report is filed.
Wow.
And that's for the users.
Yeah.
But when you think about it from the administrator side of the fence, you know this. You have to. You just explained some of it. You have to chase people down for expenses that they haven't filed, maybe undocumented expenses along those lines, and also having the ability with real-time authorization that when a charge occurs and it's authorized, you receive that instantaneously, the same time that the user sees it. So when you're talking about visibility, we're talking about control and compliance, you have instant information readily available for you. So it's a benefit for both users. They don't want to file the expense report, but it's also a huge benefit for the administrators because the excuses like, oh, I lost the receipt, I forgot who I had dinner with or whoever I went with, those are all taken away because you can file those instantaneously. So it makes life easier for both users as well as administrators.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is automation, which is going to save time for the users, right? They don't have to worry about creating the expense report. It's going to enhance compliance for the admin. Yep. And I heard you're taking Amy and I out to dinner.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, you all heard it too. All right, so I would also love for you to talk a little bit about virtual cards and what Mastercard offers when it comes to virtual cards and how those can benefit organizations.
Great question. And I mean, virtual cards have so many different applications. You think about non-carded employees, Amy. Today, if someone's traveling and they don't have a card, how do you pay for their expenses? They probably have to use their own personal, which is out of compliance, it's out of policy. Big issue there. With virtual cards, you can spin up a virtual card for that one-time traveler every year, and you can limit it to specific MCC codes. So it's for a hotel, it's for an airline, it's for meals, and it has a specific date range on it, a specific limit on it, a specific, single-use charge on it as well. So there's limits that you can put on there. So a huge savings for you because you have new employees that come in, right? And you want to have them travel in from wherever they are to your location. They're not carded yet. How do you handle that? You can issue a virtual card. You can spin up a virtual card directly from SAP Concur Expense, SAP Concur Invoice, whatever it may be, to pay for that. Think about contingent workers, non-employee labor, right?
Oh, wow, yeah.
How do you pay for them, right? Right now, they probably submit expenses, and then you have to reconcile that back out. With the virtual card, if you're bringing in, let's say, a guest speaker, you can issue them a virtual card. They can use that virtual card for the spend. And the nice part about it is all those charges are automatically reconciled back to Concur.
Oh, wow.
Right?
That's fantastic.
That is.
As they happen as well. So there's a ton of use cases for this. I was talking to a gentleman earlier today. He was from a university, and they were talking about per diem, right? How do you pay your athletes per diem? Or how do you
feed the football team?
How do you feed the football team? Better question, is the per diem for the football team the same as like the debate club?
I'm going to go ahead and say no.
But a huge issue that they face is they have to give per diem to all of the athletes. And I've heard of instances where like an assistant just sits there and hands out cash.
Yes.
And
I've experienced that in real life. That is quite the job.
Right? But with a virtual card, for every single trip that an athlete's making, you can issue them a virtual card. It can be, the amount can go directly into their mobile wallet, and then as they're on that trip, they can just use that. So you're eliminating any kind of necessity to go to a bank and
Yeah.
get cash and hand it out, and things get lost or things get stolen.
Yeah.
And so and not only that, you're also able to track what they're spending money
It's a
on.
safer option.
Exactly, because if you're giving per diem and they're like not eating and then they're charging something they shouldn't be charging on it, then you can go back and have that conversation with
Yeah.
them. So virtual cards have a ton of use cases, and it's really helpful from a control and a compliance and a cash flow perspective.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Can you tell me a little bit about the wider partnership between SAP and Mastercard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. So we talked a little about the partnership with SAP Concur, but MasterCard has a deeper relationship with SAP as a whole. So we work with SAP S/4HANA. So we've embedded payment capabilities directly within S/4HANA. So you think about if you're paying an invoice or a purchase order directly out of that system, we've embedded payment capabilities directly within that. Same thing with SAP Talia. So SAP Talia, was great. They had supply chain finance capabilities. They had dynamic discounting capabilities. When it came to virtual card, that long tail spend, they needed a solution. So we partnered with Talia, and now we offer virtual card capabilities directly within that platform as well. And we also partner with SAP Ariba, the Intelligent Spend Business Network that some of you are familiar with. So you can do things such as pay on PO, pay on invoice, pay on request. We also have other partnerships too with SAP Finicity and others as well. So it's a very deep relationship. There's a huge amount of spend that goes through the SAP platforms, and there's a better way to make those payments. And that's what we're making it more seamless and more easier with more control, less fraud, and much more visibility.
I love that. So you're everywhere.
Yes.
Okay, I love it.
Want to be.
Yes. Oh yeah, good one, good one. Okay, so now it's your turn, Bob, to take a little bit of a breather, settle in, get comfy. We're just going to go through now some wrap up and takeaways, including everyone's favorite part of these sessions. We're going to talk about scandals.
Ooh.
Do you have a few?
I do. Yes.
Okay, I assumed you did, but just in case.
We're talking work related.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So before we dive in, Amy, I want you to think about a scandal or two that you've uncovered in your time managing these different program types or card
Okay.
programs. Bob, if you've got anything to add, start thinking about that now. And then the other thing I would like you to think about, both of you to think about, is what is like a best practice that you would like to share with the audience? You both have so much knowledge and experience. What can you share with them so that they can be empowered when it comes to credit card reconciliation? Are we ready?
Ready.
Okay, let's go. All right, so Amy, let's start with scandals. What is the biggest scandal that you've uncovered in your time managing card programs?
Well, I had an employee go to take his family to Disney World. The wife grabbed the wrong card, went on a shopping spree, buying everything from Mickey Mouse ears to dinners and enough souvenirs to open her own shop. She spent way too much money, and by the time the employee realized what had happened, he was absolutely mortified. Called me and said, "How do we fix this?" I said, "No worries, just pay Amex directly." We attached the payment receipt as confirmation along with all the emails and on the expense report, and everything was marked personal, so nothing was reimbursed to Amex at the time because it was a company bill, company paid. And yeah, so that one was a smooth one, but it was more of a, oh my gosh, what had happened, but happy wife, happy life.
Happy wife, happy life. Yes, there we go. And happy kids, Disney World, the happiest place on earth.
Exactly.
But that was an accident.
It was.
You really don't hear accidental fraud.
No. And then I have another one where an employee had racked up over $5,000 in personal charges, going to liquor stores, dispensaries, Venmo, every subscription under the sun. And he, to his credit, he submitted his expense report each month on time, checked the box, like everything was perfectly normal. The only thing he didn't do was pay Amex. So after 90 days, unfortunately, we had to get HR involved, and he was ultimately terminated because he couldn't pay the past due balance.
Goodness, so he had a great time, questionable whether or not he remembers the time that was had.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. That is scandalous to think that that's okay.
It is.
Interesting. Bob, do you have any scandals you'd like to add?
I do. A company that I worked for a number of years ago.
You don't have to use any names. We don't want to get anyone in trouble.
So I was friendly with a PR manager there, and she told me that she got called into the lawyer's office.
Scary.
Yes, exactly. Nobody wants to be called into the lawyer's
No.
office and saying, did you ever have dinner with your boss, who is the director of communications for the company? And she said, yes. Why, is there a problem? And she was all nervous, like she was afraid she was going to lose her job and she did something wrong, like maybe this wasn't allowable, and I was supposed to go out to dinner, with my boss. And she said, yes. And I went out to dinner with my boss, with our spouses, because we figured we spent so much time traveling and work that it was a good idea for them to get to know one another.
Yeah.
And said, so, we went out, and the lawyer said, well, how many times did you go out? And she said, well, we went out to dinner twice. And the lawyer said, only twice? And she said, yeah, why? It turns out that her manager, the director of communications, had filed 25 expense reports for he and his wife and her spouse. And so he was going out on a regular basis with his wife, enjoying the good life, and charging it back to the company.
Oh my
And
goodness. Eating for 4.
eating for 4, living at large. And so anyway, fast forward, she was fine. She was very nervous. She's going to lose her job, but she did nothing wrong. The manager got terminated.
Eek. I'm assuming it wasn't like drive-through meals either. These were fine dining.
I don't know, but I would assume it's probably fine dining.
Not that we have anything against drive-throughs, but safe assumption. Yeah.
Nothing at all.
Goodness. Okay, so those are scandalous situations.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm hearing happy wife, happy life, though, in both of these situations. All right. Let's pivot now and let's talk about some best practices or tips and tricks that you would like to share with the viewers. So, Amy, in your time, what is the biggest tip and trick that you have come across that you would like to share out when it comes to managing card programs?
Well, the biggest learning lesson would have to be, no matter how good your policies are on paper, if employees don't understand or don't have the tools and guidance right when they're making the spend decision, compliance will suffer. So investing time up front in user-friendly education, embedding tips directly into the expense types, and having automated audits and reminders reduces headaches downstream and keeps everyone accountable. You can't underestimate the power of constant reinforcement. Policies only work if they're applied fairly and regularly with consequences for repeat offenders.
So my takeaway from that is education and enforcement.
Exactly.
Fantastic, and I agree with you. Bob?
Sure. So before I get to that question, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the reconciliation part of the benefit for both the real-time authorization and for the virtual card credit card. So the session title is Credit Card Reconciliation. So what happens when you're using a virtual card is that the information can be automatically reconciled back to the SAP Concur system. So it happens automatically. So you no longer need to worry about, where are those expenses coming from? Why don't I see them? It happens automatically. So the data is reconciled automatically. So when an admin is going, or, a T&E Concur administrator is looking to say, where do these charges come from? They're already reconciled directly to that expense that was filed. So that charge that was made. So it's a huge time savings that was there. Now to the other question there, the biggest suggestion I have is get executive sponsorship. So Amy talked about compliance and policy and having those in place, but what I've found in my career is that without having the executive sponsor enforce all these, that you can have the best policies and best compliance in the world, intentions, but unless somebody's there saying, if you're out of compliance, you're in trouble. Right, so it needs to be enforced from a top down, and when people see that this is not like a nice to have, like these policies don't apply to me, I'm too senior, I'm too junior, whatever it may be, that they're enforced and there's consequences and you have the backing of a senior leader. In my experience, that's what makes programs successful. You need the policy, you need the compliance, but you need that executive sponsor there going, this is the way, and this way or the highway.
So lead by example, but also have that executive sponsor or cheerleader in the background, right? That's able to double down on what you're saying and be that support system that you're looking for.
Correct.
But then also do more with automation, like let the systems work for you was another point you made, right?
Yeah, I mean, technology advanced so much with this new announcement we have that we talked about the expense report being reimagined, and the expense report builds itself. So the excuses that people have, I don't have the time to do this, really are taken away because all of that expense reporting is done for you. So you just have to go back in and approve it and kind of go from there.
I don't know what sales is going to do.
Yeah.
So more.
Like,
Yeah,
you know what?
exactly.
That's good. And that's why you're doing this. Okay, so a few things that we have to cover off on real quickly. Please remember to complete the survey for this session and any others that you attend throughout the day. We read every single response and we utilize the information or the data that you send to us to enhance and improve for future events. And we really value the feedback that you share. All right, and don't forget to connect with your peers online. Click on the chat with attendees option, and under your profile settings, you can go ahead and start up a conversation. Amy, Bob, thank you so much for your time. I feel like I learned so much from you, and I'm assuming everyone on the line did as well. So thank you for joining me and being a part of this, and hopefully we can do it again.
I would love that.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.